whatever happened is gone. I'm here now. Okay. And the understanding of who I actually am is going to take a person to a place where the understanding leads to an understanding that I can create my own life. Why or how? Well, it doesn't take too much of a thought to realize that whatever happens out there happens, and I'm the one who is understanding, perceiving this, and therefore so-called judging it, because that's what the brain does. It sort of puts it in good and bad. And when that's done, then I've created my reality. Now if we have 100 persons there, we will get 100 versions. Yeah. So there is no objective reality. There's just subjective reality. If you understand that, then you understand you're the interpreter of what's happened. Then you can begin to understand that it's up to me to decide what is happening out there.
And you just shared something that, for me personally, has changed my life so much, which was just understanding that what I experience is created from inside out. And there's nothing external that can cause a feeling in me. And this brings me to my next question. What were some of the illusions that you had, some of the beliefs that you had, that you bought, that were limiting you, that you needed to let go of to arrive at where you have arrived right now?
That this is real. That was the illusion.
Hello and welcome to Brand New Thought. This is a podcast about principles, about how the mind works. Our purpose is to distill principles being axiomatic truths about how life works, about our essence as human beings. And it takes experience and contemplation to distill principles. And today we have a very special guest. We're in the south of Sweden, in the beautiful city of Malmö, and my guest is Greg Dingizian. In many ways he doesn't need introduction, but I don't know to what degree my audience knows Greg. So Greg is a well-known philanthropist, investor, entrepreneur. He has made quite a few headlines. He's the founder and CEO of Agharta. Just for no other purpose than to capture the attention of my audience, I can just mention that Doxa, which is another organization where he's chairman of the board, has made quite a few headlines last year. If I'm not mistaken, there was a transaction worth over 300 million euros. And again, I'm only mentioning this for no other reason than to capture the attention of my audience. But the reason Greg has been such a huge inspiration for me and a lot of people is he's someone who's genuinely interested in self-realization and spirituality, and he has openly talked about how that guides his thinking process and decision making, so we'll talk about that. He has actually funded research on mindfulness and meditation here at Malmö University. Greg is also a philanthropist. We could say he's one of the most affluent sons of our nation in many ways. He's the founder of Bridge to Armenia, which is led by yet another successful exemplary Dingizian, Esabelle Dingizian, who was the former deputy speaker of the Swedish parliament, and the foundation seeks to support Armenia, especially projects when it comes to sustainability, education, other grassroots initiatives, so we'll talk about that. I could go on and on, but I'll pause here. Greg, thank you so very much for hosting us. It's such an honor to get to co-create this conversation with you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. And listening to you, I'm thinking, who is that guy? Is that me? I don't see all those things.
I suspected you would say that. I mean, when you hear this kind of endorsements, what kind of feelings does that invoke in you?
Happiness, because I realize I never think of these things in those terms. Yeah, I just do things.
That's beautiful. Did you ever set out to reach the level of external success, let's put it that way, that you have achieved, or did you kind of follow your bliss, as Joseph Campbell has said it, and this was the side effect of all of that?
I think the core of it was love, my love to what I was doing. And it took many years to understand what I was doing and what I really wanted from it. Basically, I was looking for, and I ended up quickly in the stock market and real estate business as a young kid. And I was looking for success, basically. Which for me meant having a dream, having a vision, and make that come true. And that might take a week or 10 years. So I was very much into my visions, my dreams. I had a vivid imagination. I still have it. So I would follow my dreams, yeah, and I would believe in them until the opposite was proven. Which it did many times, of course.
Yeah,
that's how I learned from my mistakes.
I always wanted to ask you, you've named your company Agharta, and if I'm not mistaken, it does have a somewhat metaphorical, spiritual meaning as well. What does it mean to you, and why did you name it?
Well, Agharta, it came to me in my head, 2016. My company had another name, yeah, and it came to me in a download I got, and I didn't know what it was, so I Googled it, and apparently it was the name of the civilization that exists inside the hollow earth, which I never thought about, whether the earth was hollow or not, but and it fascinated me, and it sort of communicated with me. So since then I know a lot more about Agharta. Actually, that was the first name on our planet, long time ago.
Oh well.
Anyways, that's why, and I wanted to name my company Agharta.
I have so many questions that I want to dive into. At the same time, I just enjoy sitting here and following intuitively what wants to come through, and I think these are how the best conversations are made. But because quite a big part of my audience is Armenian, I want to ask you about your roots. You were born in a family of Armenians in Iraq?
1960, Baghdad, Iraq, 20th of August. Moved to Sweden September 65, so I was 5 years old. So I grew up here. Went back to Baghdad once, 1970, as a kid with my dad. Been to first time to Armenia was 1980, I think, 81 maybe, and since then, well, I don't know how many times, maybe a dozen times.
How do you think your Armenian upbringing or affiliation with the culture has influenced your outlook on life?
Oh, very much, very much. Having lived here for almost 60 years, I feel I've been able to take the best out of the Armenian and the Swedish culture and combine them, and that's a very good balance in that. So I am, I guess, one foot in every country, or in these both two cultures, because it's more about cultures, I think.
I think so too. And having kind of worked with both Sweden and Armenia, I've always asked myself, what is something that Armenia could learn from Sweden and vice versa? What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, being a nation who's suffered a lot and scattered all over the planet, we have it in our DNA to struggle and fight. We're going places. We learned that as kids, at least my generation did, yeah. Maybe not the young ones now, because the 100 years has passed. So there was this engine in us, in most of us, that's something kids my age didn't have in Sweden. They didn't need to. They had their parents. They had it all, and which is also good, because then the kids can do what they want to instead of what they have to. And there's no good and bad in this. It's more understanding the driving factors, and that's what I meant with taking the best from each culture. Plus, we're known to be good businessmen. Not that I can claim I'm one, but you know, at least we're good traders. We know how to buy and sell and stuff like that. And we have at least an average brain, yeah. So, so there's a lot of good things with my Armenian heritage, of course.
What you said reminds me of the Buddhist idea that suffering creates, I mean, life is suffering and suffering creates grace. My interpretation has always been that, well, you don't exactly need to suffer to arrive at whatever enlightenment is or spiritual insight, but it can be an aid for that. And sometimes I feel that historically we've had so many occasions to, you know, touch the spaces of inner abundance and all of that, but we don't always do that, and it feels like partially we're still connected to our victimhood, given the narratives that we've gone through and actually what really happened. What do you think about that, and do you see that this is kind of transforming, or what could we do to use this experience for enlightenment, for unfolding further instead of you know, staying stuck?
Well, the brain, the idea of the individuality that we have, the I, is for everybody connected to the brain, the thought, which basically is wrong. So creating these prisons in your head, in your thoughts, or any other thing, blaming yourself or assuming a lot of things, of course, that sort of narrows down your possibilities in life. It's a burden. So I don't believe in those kind of things. If you want to put that on yourself, you know, I feel sorry for you. But to think that that's a law of nature or a necessity or somehow, that's bullshit. That's gone. Whatever happened is gone. I'm here now. Okay. And the understanding of who I actually am is going to take a person to a place where the understanding leads to an understanding that I can create my own life. Why or how? Well, it doesn't take too much of a thought to realize that whatever happens out there happens, and I'm the one who is understanding, perceiving this, and therefore so-called judging it, because that's what the brain does. It sort of puts it in good and bad. And when that's done, then I've created my reality. Now if we have 100 persons there, we will get 100 versions. Yeah. So there is no objective reality. There's just subjective reality. If you understand that, then you understand you're the interpreter of what's happened. Then you can begin to understand that it's up to me to decide what is happening out there. And once that is happening, well, you know, I can go on and on and on, and soon you understand, wow, I am somehow a creator, or at least a director of this movie that I'm in. Just like in a theater, it's not happening on the screen. I am the judge of what's happening there. I can laugh, I can cry. So it's not happening out there, it's happening here and here. Yeah. So basically life is, that's why it is an illusion. And it is what you think it is. So for those who think it's something good, congratulations. And for those who think it's a suffering, yeah, well, there's a lesson there to be learned.
You're hitting the right spots right away.
Well, we end up there always.
Yeah. We actually, funnily enough, even in our heritage, we had an Armenian mystic called Gyurjieff, and you mentioned the metaphor that he also referred to quite a lot, which was the only prison you can't escape is the one you don't see, the prison of thoughts, because it's all around you and you don't notice that. And you just shared something that for me personally has changed my life so much, which was just understanding that what I experience is created from inside out, and there's nothing external that can cause a feeling in me. And this brings me to my next question. What were some of the illusions that you had, some of the beliefs that you had, that you bought, that were limiting you, that you needed to let go of to arrive at where you have arrived right now?
Look, this is real. That was the illusion.
The fact that the external creates a
it's
feeling?
Like when you're either in the game or you're not in the game. You're either in the matrix or you're not. So when you meditate or when you walk in the forest and you're not thinking or whatever you're doing, you're not in the matrix. You're an observer. You don't think. You see it clearly. When you're in there, it's all fantasy. This is a crazy planet, totally. Every day, you can check this out, every day they have around 25,000 kids under the age of 12 who starve to death. Every day. Who cares about that? That's just sort of running. These are figures from the UN and stuff, yeah. So, you can get 50,000 person on a Thursday night, 9 o'clock, shitty weather, watching a game, 22 guys running, chasing a ball. Yeah. You can't get people to listen to serious things. Now, in what way is this? What kind of reality is this? So you have to see through these things, yeah. And you can either cry or you can laugh at it. Or you can just watch it. What is best to do is, of course, be what you believe in. And I don't believe in that, so I can't, it's difficult for me to participate in many of those things.
I love that.
This doesn't maybe answer your question, but I mean, this is I can be more specific, of course. What kind of, challenges and so on did I face? Well, I thought when I was young that whoever had the most money when he died had won. I saw it as a game, yeah. And then I realized I wasn't going anywhere, that it was basically a non-winning game. You can't win that game, yeah. That was a big illusion. I was, I don't know, maybe 28, 30 when I realized that. So there have been many of those realizations during my path. But the overall one is to understand the nature of this experience.
Yes.
Basically, it's like you're not in it. This is the avatar. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're whatever you want to call it, somebody somewhere, which is you, is holding the stick. Yeah. And the better communication between the player and you, the better life you live. And if you completely let your higher self run you, you're going to be a happy person. You're not going to struggle.
I agree. That's why I meditate. I think it boils down to understanding our nature, understanding how the mind works. But in order to get that understanding, not just as an intellectual concept or a philosophy, it takes real experience, because you feel it and you know it to be true, and that's the only way. So how did you come here? How did you arrive at that point? How did your spirituality begin to unfold?
I think all human beings are spiritual beings having a physical experience.
100%.
Then we are different in our. Basically, before we incarnate, we already decided what kind of where we want to incarnate, who we want as parents and so on, so that we can get the life experience we're here for, no matter what it is. And so what happens during this path is probably very much already decided. That's why astrology works. What will happen has already happened. Okay, it's not that difficult to understand that. What is difficult is that there are parallel realities. That's more deeper. But let's keep it simple. the big problems I've had in life, the big challenges, are the things that made me. What a challenge does to you, it tells you, hello, you shouldn't walk here. Maybe you should walk there.
Yeah.
Because that's what you actually wanted. That's why you're here. So I still walk here, and maybe I'll pass this whatever problem it is, but I'll end up at the same spot again until I until I walk the right path, and this problem will become bigger and bigger. So if I'm neglecting something and I'm repeating it, it will just become harder and harder until I sort of either break down, crack, or I'm going to choose the right way. When I choose the right, so-called right way, the way it was intended, I've learned something. Some do this easy. For some, it's sort of, oh, okay, they understand, they do it once, and then they just sort of look another way. Others, they need lifetimes. And they just keep on doing the same crap over and over. And I'm talking about myself now, okay? So I've had, I had in my life several big challenges, really big. And I survived them. And I'm not talking financial stuff,
Yeah.
I'm talking all kinds of stuff. And that made me very humble, because when situations take you to a point where you realize you can't do anything about it, then you get humble. It's beyond your capacity. And when you go there and you have trust in whatever is happening, you let go of it, and it takes you to the right place, and something happens within you. You realize, wow.
Yeah.
And if you read Asian philosophy, Tao Te Ching, okay, Lao Tzu, he says that when water runs from a higher ground and it reaches rock, it doesn't try to penetrate the rock, it just passes around it and continues towards the ocean. Yeah. And if we leave, so we learn from nature. You leave things. We fight. When we see this obstacle, we'll fight. We're going to fight through it. That's what you do when you're young. You want, you know your way. But as life passes and you get these challenges and you understand what they're telling you, you don't have to suffer. And I don't believe we're here to suffer, not a second.
Yeah. I agree, and I think you just pointed to something very, very important, which is the fact that we stumble across seemingly the same problems or experiences. There's actual inherent goodness in it, because how else would we realize if our understanding of the world is correct or not? So it feels, on a very banal example, you think a thought and it doesn't feel good. If not for that feeling, how would you know if that thought carries wisdom or not? So it takes guts to arrive at a point to see that that comes out of a good place as well. But we talked about wealth and success, and on paper everybody says we know that success doesn't lead to happiness, success doesn't lead to well-being, but still somehow that's, for many people, that's a concept, it's not a reality. Could you maybe share an example of how your external success made things worse for you in terms of your inner enlightenment?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you have a person has a lot of money, you get a lot of trouble with that money. You're going to have a lot of... Well, I don't want to go into detail. I can just assure you that a lot of trouble, a lot of money doesn't mean no trouble. On the contrary, much more. So, and happiness is a state of mind, yeah. I mean, you and I can put us in a room, give us some nice music, maybe a bottle of vodka, whatever, some food, and we'll have fun. We're going to have fun, and we're going to laugh, and we're going to sing. And it's not going to matter whether we have $100 million in the bank or nothing. And if we forget the vodka, take next moment, yeah. When people meet, when people talk, when people, whatever they do, when we live, when we're normal human beings, society has sort of created a culture, especially these last 50 years, which is in many ways terrible. It's all about the outside, the showing off, the identification of an I, which is very successful through expensive stuff, cars. I don't know, there are like 100 ways there. And all these things, I mean, if you look at men, what has been created for men are several things, so a man can occupy himself externally. There's football, gambling, women, of course. There's a lot of things, golf and this and that. All these things are there, so that so it takes our time. It takes our attention outward. If you look at women, they've got a lot of women's stuff they need to sort of be able to understand and follow and do this and that. So it's very much external. Yeah. And this is it's very much made intentionally, a culture like this. If you look at music, movies, everything has been directed towards a point where we as humans, we think life is on the outside. We think life is on the screen, and that's what obviously is good for certain forces.
Yeah, I agree. I think our awareness is our biggest commodity, and if someone or some entity has control over that, they have control over everything. I want to ask you this because my audience is people who are into self-realization, spirituality, meditation, a lot of modalities. And you mentioned humility, for example, and that's very important. But there's also a misunderstanding about humility. One of my teachers said, humility is not thinking less of yourself. Humility is thinking about yourself less. So part of my audience is also interested in creating external success, but not because they need that to be happy or need that for validation, but essentially allowing that stillness, that presence that they tap into to unfold into creation, which almost happens automatically. But because you've had a very unique experience with building businesses, I want to talk to you about that particularly. So maybe let's start with goals. Do you tell us about your thinking process about goals? How concrete are your goals? Do you write them down, or what's your thinking process?
Okay, so we're talking business.
Yes.
I would. It would always be a vision, somehow. Now, vision, they come when they won't. Okay. What you need is to be a little silent. Maybe my biggest success was Victoria Park, a real estate company with residential properties, which was a huge success in 6 years. We went from nothing and sold it for I think $1 billion, 10 million kroners, and the whole idea came to me in a download. Bam! I was in the swimming pool, relaxing during lunch, and it sort of came, and I would do that if an idea came. I remember I went up and I wrote it down, and it was very strong, the idea. I mean, I understood the steps. This is what you should do. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and that would happen. And yes, I was managing director. This is 13 years ago. And I called my chairman of the board. I was in Bali, vacation. And I said, I'm coming home and I want to have a board meeting. I went home, had a board meeting, and I presented my idea. I said, this is what I want to do. And they laughed and they didn't believe that it would turn out that way. But they supported me, and we did it, and it happened. It was a tremendous success. And in detail, what I would do is I would take an idea. First of all, I would go to I would go to those persons who I think would be most critical to my idea. So it would be somebody who knows the business, or if it's my own business, somebody who I know is very sharp or very hard to persuade. And I would go to probably at least 2 or 3 of them, maybe senior people, and see if my idea, what they think. If they totally, I'm used to getting butchered. I want that.
Yes.
I want to hear them kill it, yeah. Because at my age, you don't want to start things that's not going to fly. But if that sort of passes my head, that examination, and they might say, "Nah, I don't believe it." But but you know, if they don't find anything more critical than I see, because the danger is the things you can't see. Obviously,
Yes.
it's not the things you can't see. So then I would go through this, you know, step by step. Is this possible? Is this possible? And it's not that I'm psychic, but I have a good vision of things. Yeah. I have a capacity of understanding the future a little better. If everything looks good, of course, numbers also, I'll go for it. If it doesn't look good, I'll kill it. Nowadays, I kill everything. Well, I joke. I said, I'm glad. I was much more naive, of course, and I worked much more with gut feeling when I was younger. I would dare much more. But as time passes and the mistakes, I mean, I've done, obviously, I've taken more bad mistakes, so-called, than good. But the good has paid all the bad ones, and some money was left over anyway.
I love that.
So somehow it's better to try and fail.
Yes.
And it's very much a creative process. I believe in the love of what you do, because if you love whatever you're doing, you're not going to look at your watch if it's midnight. You're going to work all because you love it. There's no line between work and my life. This is my life.
Yes.
I love it. I'm doing this not because they're giving me $5,000 at the end of the month, but I want this. I am this. If you have that kind of view on what you're doing or believe, that would lead to success. If it's something monetary, it will lead to money. If it's something cultural, it will lead to some other success. So I don't believe in, this is my plan of making 100 million kroners or whatever, dollars, or I'm going to be the lead artist of some whatever. I believe in somehow this is what I like in life. This seems like I'm good at it, and I you know, this is what I want to do more of. And then it grows and it becomes, this is my life. I want to be a fireman or a pilot or a businessman.
So find something that feels like play to you, but
Yes,
feels
feels
like work to others.
Yes.
That's it.
Definitely.
For me, I think I'm getting closer and closer to that attitude. And what was a challenge for me is the illusion that, well, I needed to go find what is it that I like doing, and not realizing that actually in moments when I'm quiet, whatever it is that I'm doing, I kind of like doing very much, and there's intelligence flowing through that, which somewhat indirectly brings me to my next question. So you mentioned kind of daring actions and courage in that sense, because if you hadn't taken all the steps, you wouldn't have arrived at the understanding that you have. What is preventing us from doing this more, and how can people develop this daring action type of mindset more?
Well, the reason people don't dare is because they're afraid. Afraid of what? Afraid of, well, losing money, not succeeding, basically. So now for me, I never had that thought. Going into something, I never saw that failure even though it fails sometimes. I saw the possibilities always, which is not just good. I burnt my fingers many times, yeah. But it enables. But without that, without people who don't think about the consequences, few things would happen. Yeah. And obviously there are more of the type that don't do things than the type would do. And again, there is no right and wrong. A person has to ask himself or herself what feels right. Some are not here on this planet to take risks. It's not their purpose. Yeah. And for some, I mean, they might have the thought, the notion of I should take a step, and not doing it. Maybe they should sort of ask themselves, why am I not doing it? Because it is there, somehow. So I believe in doing the thing that feels right for you, for the individual, and also to take a chance or two. It's no matter what, it's not for real anyway. It's just it's a trip.
It's a game.
It's a vacation. Yeah. It's, I don't know, 80, 90, 100 years of experience here. Make the best out of it. Have fun. Yeah. Go for it. What are the consequences, Often people get afraid because it's programmed in them. People are afraid of everything.
I agree. And the experience of stillness and self-realization takes that away if you allow yourself to be there, and there's guidance within us, and sometimes not only are answers within us, but they're only within us. But there's an aspect of mentorship, maybe not in this thing. I remember in one of your interviews you mentioned one of your mentors, I think Bo Håkansson, and you talked about how, especially as you moved in, immigrants, there weren't probably so many in Sweden, so there was a lot of stigma, and that person helped you open doors. So please share a little bit more about that. What was it that you received through your mentors? And if someone is seeking to find a mentor, what's the best way to do that? Or how can people fill the gaps of not having a mentor?
Without any doubt, I've had Bo Håkansson and Bo Fosseng, two gentlemen who helped me in my career. And without them, I wouldn't have been there. They opened doors. They took me in. It's not. That meant everything for me, especially since I was a foreigner, young, and Sweden was quite conservative back then, still is. So it meant everything for me. Without them, I wouldn't be sitting here. That's, at least in this timeline, God knows what would have happened. I think I cannot, mentors, how do you find a mentor? Well, that's not easy. Do I need a mentor? Will life give me one if I need one? Maybe. Mentors are not for everybody. I don't know. I believe in that if it's meant to be, it's going to come. Yeah. But if I really wanted one myself, I would probably contact a lot of people who I thought would be good mentors for me. That's what I would do. I'm quite stubborn. I was that one. I called them up, big shots, just to get the feeling. That was also part. Yeah, I recall that. I was never afraid of approaching and trying. I knew things wouldn't. I always thought it wouldn't come to me. I have to go get it. Later on, I realized, past 50, that the best things were the things that came to me. So patience was very important. I didn't have that when I was young, which was not good. It created a lot of problems that I didn't have patience.
It's the good old ask and it's given. But without asking, I guess it's not given.
Yeah.
So it was part of the receiving. Part of the receiving is asking. But this brings me. So your sister had another type of success in politics. I should have maybe asked this earlier, but what do you think you guys have in common that have allowed you to achieve success in two very different worlds?
Maybe that we came early as foreigners, 1965, and when we grew up, my sister's 2 years younger than me. She was 3 when we came to Sweden. It helped that we grew up. It was quite Swedish back then, so we learned the culture very well. There were no other foreigners.
No
the other ones were the European, so when we grew up, there was quite a bit of Swedes in us, I guess. We knew the system. That probably helped, as opposed to those that came much later. Yeah. That's the only. Besides that, a good mother and father and blah 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 blah.
Well, is there perhaps non-material inheritance or something that you've received from your family that you carry with yourself in every room, everywhere that you go?
I think no matter what conditions we come from as kids, let's say we have bad parents or good parents, loving parents, or rich parents, they could afford education in London or something. No matter what, in my head, things are quite. In my head, I believe. I more than believe. I'm convinced that we all have our life paths. Okay, I see some. They come from many who has big success. They come from a family life that's terrible.
Yeah.
And that thing have given them the motivation to reach their points. People come from good families and they end up in the gutter. And so it's up to the individual, to sort of understand its own path. I mean, if we're talking understanding life and choosing the right path and so on. When I was younger and started my path to understand life, I read a lot of books. I read I don't know how much. I read a lot.
Is there one that stands out?
Well, I stopped reading 15 years later, maybe. By then, I read Ramana Maharshi, who didn't write. He didn't write any books, but they wrote books about him. And he said there's only one question that needs to be answered, and that's, who am I? If you don't know the I, what does the rest matter? And I thought about that a lot and realized, that's it. And then after that, I didn't need any more books. Before that, I've realized, I was maybe 30, the realization came bit by bit, yeah. I remember when I realized, oh wow, I learned, I understood the meaning of life one day. Wow, now I know the meaning of life, and that was life in itself, the journey. Wow, and then sort of some years later you learn this, but the most important lesson came later when I realized that all this knowledge was intellectual, and I had to live it. And to learn how to live it. How do I live that? What does that mean, all these things? Live in the moment, live now, this is it, and la la la, there's no time. And so I guess things didn't spiritually pick up really until I started doing that.
When you feel a lack of alignment, lack of understanding, or you feel stress, what is it that you reach out to, or what's your first instinct? Is there a technique, practice, or something that has almost become a habit?
Well, there are different levels. If the easiest level to sort of get rid of are thoughts. I don't allow bad thoughts. I can see my thoughts. So if I clear my head from any thoughts that I don't want, there's a lot of space, there's a lot of time. So take away that. When there are emotions, there are hardly any emotions that I know they are mine, so I can control them very much. If I still get somehow upset or something, I would take 3-5 seconds. Deep breath, one deep breath.
Yeah.
I'm out of the matrix, and once I'm out of the matrix, it's just probably laughable whatever is happening. So the body is programmed to react. I'll defend myself immediately.
Yes.
No, I didn't say that. Blah, 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 blah. So to deprogram this, that's why I said it takes time. It's not. So when you realize I want to be the truth, not just understand it,
yeah.
you start working on yourself, and that doesn't take 6 months. It takes a little longer. But you will see results all the time. So it's very encouraging. You see the results going forward. So it's not, it's going to take 10 years. It's just like life gets better and better because you release so much shit. Pardon the Swedish house. So still I occasionally, it happened the other week that I sort of, something happens and I get very affected. And nowadays, I might give it 30 minutes, 60 minutes, and I will get rid of it.
Yeah.
I'll probably take a walk or something. But when that happens, I know it's deep rooted, because then something really deep has touched me, and I need to process that.
Yeah.
Because
so
I'm thankful when things irritate me, because then I find something it's like cleaning. I want to get rid of everything. Until I'm so transparent, I am,
yes.
I've tattooed yes, yem in Armenian here.
Yes,
Yeah, I am here. In Armenian.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so individual. I think for people, for some, it's like some people think that spirituality is like an extended foreplay with God, and then boom, then you get the spiritual awakening, and that's it. But in most cases, you get in and out of it, in and out of it, in and out of it, and in a way, you already are it. So all that can happen, like you've said, is you come across more whatever circumstances that let you see more of where you need to do your work and healing. Do you have any other techniques that you use, perhaps not for spirituality, but for your business, or let's say journaling? Do you journal?
What is journal?
Writing down thoughts, organizing, or is there a...
No.
What I'm interested in is the things that are most uniquely Greg.
Most uniquely me is I follow what I believe in.
Yeah.
I don't follow conventions or any methods. I had a hard time in school. I probably have ADHD, quite heavy. I have OCD. I have a lot of these things. And those things have helped me a lot. It's sort of a mixture of everything. The acceptance of the I, of the me, is very important. And not to put blame on myself, realizing that I never regret anything, because that's stupid, I think. Why would I regret? Realizing that it's up to me. Every moment it's up to me.
Yeah.
It's not outside of me. So there's nothing out there, basically. Everything is in here. So I think maybe those things, of course, have very much influenced my work also. I go my own way. If everybody runs that way, I'll always look this way, because I'm thinking Well, I'm thinking, I know how for example, the financial market, it works, yeah. If 4, 5, 6 start to run that way, everybody's going to follow. So I never followed anybody.
And that's very strategic, because if you're very intellectual, you're very foreseeable. But if you're spontaneous,
yeah, I don't
else.
believe. I mean, what is intellect? What is that? I mean, when
accumulation of thoughts and memories.
Exactly. When I was young kid, if you were a professor or something, or you knew a lot, that was a big deal. Today, knowledge is like, it's there. It takes 1 second. Knowledge is nothing. What is the knowledge of understanding how to use knowledge. Yes. That's wisdom.
Beautiful.
How do I use the knowledge? It's not the knowledge in itself. If it's correct now.
You've also mentioned once, I think in one of your interviews, but also in our conversations, that you think that the current system, perhaps even the monetary system as it is somewhat collapsing and changing, and changes are happening very rapidly. There's AI influencing the workplace. So that what you said triggered another question in me. What do you think are going to be the most demanded skills in the next 4 to 5 years?
Compassion. Besides that?
But the world needs it, but is the world asking for it? Is the world rewarding it? I mean, energetically, in the moment, it always does, but...
Well, as I said, I don't follow everybody else, I do what I can.
Yeah.
If you want to change the world, be the change.
What does compassion mean to you?
The understanding of a group consciousness, that we're all one. We're all apples on the same branch in the same tree.
Yeah. Is forgiveness part of that?
Well, if you don't forgive, you haven't understood.
Yeah.
So that means, they have a problem if you don't forgive.
Are you at all interested in artificial intelligence? Or, I mean, there's so much buzz about it, but how does that fit in your paradigm of the world?
I don't use it.
Not at all? Not even when you search for something?
No, not that I know of. No, because I don't think AI is something bad. I don't think AI is not bad or good. AI existed even before we started to use AI.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
So AI has been there. AI is just like any other tool, like a knife. You can use it to kill somebody, but you can use it for a lot of good things. Yeah. So it's the user, or it's what you do with the AI. So of course, if you use AI for very bad things, it's not so good. But that's not how AI is going to be used. AI is going to help humanity very much.
Beautiful. I also want to ask you about Armenia, and I mean, you were born and raised there, so I guess you're Swedish in that sense. But with you have founded the Bridge to Armenia, and Armenia is dealing with a lot of challenges, and I'm a citizen. I'm very, very concerned, to say the least. What is your vision of Armenia? How do you think it can get out of the situation that it currently is at?
I think I know too little about the situation to be able to have any good advice. I'm sorry.
No, I understand.
What I see is I see the bigger picture is that we're going to see very big changes in the geopolitics now. So this what's happening now is not something random and something that is going to go back to some other situation. We're seeing a shift that is huge, biblical proportions. I see country lines disappearing eventually. Probably you'll get like 7 blocks on the planet. North America, South America, Europe, including Russia, Africa, China, and you're going to see I have a very positive view of the future, even though it looks bad now. So I think it will be good for many countries. We need to get some corrupting forces away and some peace. With that, and I think that will happen in the coming years. Of course, it's very sad that people are dying right now, but I see a good future. And I think this will lead. What is happening now will lead to a better world, because the pure human is a very fine species with a very big heart and a very good understanding of this group consciousness. So, and I believe in that, and we've struggled us through many shitty periods in history, and this will be the last. That's what I believe in.
I like that. That's good news. But what is it that you have seen recently that is giving you more hope in that sense? Because you are expressing more optimism. I mean, maybe you always expressed optimism, I don't know. But what gives you hope for humanity these days?
I think that globally, we're seeing humanity, people, facing challenges of many kinds, be it COVID or war, and they are now questioning whether the authorities, the ones in power, are really doing the right thing. It's obvious, yeah, we see slaughters here and there, we see so crazy things, so there is an awakening going on. And this awakening will sooner or later, sooner in this case, lead to changes. We're not accepting this. Now how this changes, and there are also things going on that we don't know about, which I know a little more about, which is not presented in media, which are very good things.
Media almost always presents negative things because
well, it's corporate media.
So
yeah. It's owned. There are owners. It's easy, and big business works in a way where you never see the people who takes the decision. They're not doing the job yet. So even if you see presidents and whatever, there's somebody behind them. Of course.
The most powerful actors are almost always invisible.
Yeah, for sure. But then, for me, I don't think of these happenings, the bad ones, as something that darkens my reality. Yeah. For me, that's 3D, and I let it play out. I see the shift in the system, and it's in a process where it cannot be reversed, and we're going to see a much better civilization, planet, soon.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
I know our time is not unlimited, but before we conclude, I'd like to play a little question fire round. I'll just mention something, and I want a word perhaps, but I want to hear your quick reaction to it. Sure. It can be short or long as you wish to be. What comes to mind when I say meditation?
Meditation is conscious breathing. Everybody should learn that. It helps. It's very helpful in life. Very easy. It's free of charge. You can do it whenever you like, wherever you like. It's something really good.
Decision making?
Necessary. To not make a decision is also a decision.
Goals?
Here and now.
Happiness?
Always.
Money?
Necessity.
How about politics?
Shit.
Armenia?
Homeland.
Sweden?
Homeland.
Family?
family, family, family. Family, well, we're all a family, I
Yeah.
guess. Which family? Yeah, my own
Beautiful.
family. So,
So it's the oneness of life.
yeah, I guess so. We're all family.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Asmik.
Is there a question that you wish I had asked that I haven't asked yet?
No, but I think it's good to remember, and I remind myself to understand that the apprentice in the searcher, he would chop woods and carry water, and the master, his job is chop woods and carry water, and that's a realization I've come to, and I don't understand it intellectually anymore. Not that I want to imply that I am something, but I understand it.
Yeah.
Whatever we're looking for, you've got it already.
Thank you for sharing that.
So,
And thank you for this
thank you.
interview. Thank you for all
Well,
that
I'm going to
is-
charge you $10,000 for this, of course.
Oh, well, I mean, if it has to be, it has to be. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Beautiful.
Thank you.